Hey everyone, what's up? Yeah, it's Saturday, July 28th, 2018 is 3:55 p.m. Uh, and I am off work. As you could tell, shirt is different from this morning. Um, yeah, I'm off work. Hopefully, God willing, I think God's going to take care of me on this. No, I believe God. No, I know God's going to take care of me on this. No offense, Lord. Uh, I know God's going to take care of me on this. Basically, we have what's known as PTO, paid time off. So if we're 15 minutes late or we have to clock out 15, 20 minutes early, we do PTO to kind of cover it. So it'd be like, hey, we're still there, even though we're not. So I definitely know God's going to take care of that because I put it in His hands. And here's the thing about me doing this on a Saturday. Normally, my family, my mom, takes me to work in the morning, picks me up in the afternoon, due to the fact that, well, basically, the bus scheduling is a little bit more different on weekends, mostly Saturdays, than it is on the weekdays because of the fact that on the weekdays it's every 75 to 80 minutes during the routine. Sorry for a bit of lag there, but it's every 80 to 75 minutes on the daily routine. Um, but on Saturdays, okay. What I was trying to say is on weekdays it's 80 to 75. If I said Saturday, I do apologize. But on weekdays, Monday through Friday, it's every 75 to 80 minutes, or a little around that. 70. I would say 75 to 95 minutes. Oh, I'll put it this way: 75 to about 90 minutes at around that time frame for each route to loop around. So I can work with that because basically in the morning I get up, I leave the house about 10 minutes before, well, not 10 minutes, but I'd say, well, it all depends on my situation. If I have to get change for the bus, I will get change. But usually it's about 5, 6 minutes before the bus arrives because the bus stops right around over there, right there, just around the corner. No big deal for me. So I'll just go over there and catch the bus just in time. And then, all circumstances depending, I will catch the bus in the afternoon going home. For example, if I get off at 4:30 and it's during the school year and my mom is working or just getting off her job in Livermore, I take the bus home on the 5 o'clock one. So that's what I do. So it kind of works out for me very well during the weekdays, and even to the point that if I have to, I can leave about maybe 10 minutes early to catch the bus, the 5:31. At least that's what I'm thinking it is on the other side. Because the bus shows up on the side of my job, like on the left side, and then it comes around the area, back around the section around 5:27, almost 5:30. So I can catch it around there. Again, sorry for the lag. I can catch it around there. Um, so it kind of worked out for me a little bit. And sometimes if I have to, I'll dial up Lyft and get somebody to pick me up. But usually my mom will pick me up about 5:30. Since if she's off, like she is this summer, she'll pick me up about 5:30 or a little afterwards and just take me home. And if she has Bible study and Bible study starts at 7, she'll just drive me home and then go back because it's only like 12 miles out of the way. 12 miles, no big deal really. I mean, gas wise, the gas isn't. I mean, gas is going up. There's no doubt at times, but mileage wise and gas wise, it really doesn't hurt too much. And I'm able to pay her back when in the rent, or when I have the money, I pay her back. Um, with that said, though, kind of make this short. On Saturdays, the bus schedule is a little bit more different because it's not every 75 to 90 minutes. It's every 3 hours almost. The reason they did this, from what I understand, it's kind of complicated, but it's basically because it's Saturday and not many people apparently don't ride the bus that much. So they cut back on the hours. And that's a great idea, and honestly, that's a great strategy or great idea to implement. However, there's a lot of people that depend on the bus as their means of getting home and getting to work. And if they get off at a time that basically indicates, hey, I got to wait an hour and a half, or I got to wait 2 hours at least before the bus arrives, that's not good. And sometimes when you try to do a dial a ride, sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. And, like I said, you do have Lyft as an option, you have Uber, but sometimes you got to make sure you get the right kind of people behind the wheels there, because of the fact that there's always that chance you'll get somebody that has had a troubled past. And if you read the news or read or watched the news at times, those kind of scenarios lead into tragic, if not near tragic, situations. So when it comes to Lyft and Uber, you got to make sure that you have the right people. You just got to pray that you get the right people behind the wheel. Anyway, with that said, though, finish this up. Basically today, usually my mom would pick me up and bring me home, and if she has something to do, she'll drop me off and go back. Well, she did do something today. She went with my older sister. My older sister works at Kohl's, so today, this weekend, her and her fellow employees, associates, all across the nation, I guess, have 55% off. Get 55% off any of the purchases. So if a purchase, so let's say an overall total of the purchase is $500, she gets about a little over half of that off. She gets 55% of that off. So, it's like if this speaker here, this Bluetooth speaker right here, cost about $12, 55% off, she gets it for about $4.50. So my mom, my second oldest sister, they took advantage of that. They went with my oldest sister, and my nephew, my second youngest nephew, or third youngest nephew, I should say, my third youngest nephew, is staying with us, is staying with me and my mom at least until about tomorrow or Monday. And what happened is, since he's old enough, he's going to be 11 this year. He's not, even though he's 11, even though he's going on 11, he's not old enough yet to be on his own, to be on his own at a house while he waits for somebody. So he had to go with my mom. And today, usually every Saturday, I have 4 hours. I only work 4 hours because I closed out my schedule. So on Saturdays, I work 4 hours. And basically, long story short, the bus schedule, like I mentioned, would have had me get on the bus about 4:07. And I didn't want to wait that long. So I looked online and I noticed, the bus is going to be back around this area at 1:25. So I went and I PTO'd 15 minutes off of my normal time getting off, which would have been 1:30. So I clocked out at 1:15. I let my assistant manager know. I let my CSMs know. So hopefully things will be, again, God I know is going to take care of me on this situation, and I'm going to be okay. The only loophole is only one of those PTO, paid time off, approvals is going to be approved for a payout. The other will not. So, God's going to take care of me. He's going to make sure he's going to definitely make sure things are all right with me at my job. And they enjoy me at my job. They like me having me there. So they know I'm dependable. So God knows I'm not. God's got my back. He's going to make sure nothing happens. But anyway, But anyway, let's talk about this video. Let's get this video started. And I do apologize to anybody that's watching or that was watching live and kind of left a little bit. Let's talk about this for a second, shall we? And I do apologize if there's any lag or anything, because as I've mentioned in other live streams, I have the XB6 modem from Xfinity, which is supposed to be a stronger modem when it comes to Wi-Fi. And apparently the internet part, it works, but there are sometimes it'll go off. Like you got that little icon that lets you know you're connected via internet port or Wi-Fi. Well, it's letting me know that I'm connected by internet port because I got the cable. Sometimes what happens is the internet portion goes off for about a millisecond, then comes back on. It's like you go to a page and all of a sudden the page won't be there, and then about a second later it just shows up. Because basically, I guess there's something that there's something either there in the system, or they're definitely giving more emphasis on the Wi-Fi portion. I'm not really sure. But yeah, just to let you know if there's any kind of lag or something, just to look out for that. Hold on for a second. Okay, just checking my dog there. She's sleeping. Anyway, like I said, I'm just letting you guys know that that's something that could happen, just briefly. Because like I said, the icon will go off and then say there's no connection, and then all of a sudden it'll come back off like within a millisecond. I guess it's just to make sure the page is appropriate, or I don't know. It's weird. Anyway, let's talk about some of the things I want to talk about here. Just like I said, it's live wrestling talk for today. Let's talk about some of the things that's been going on. Of course, Impact Wrestling being on fire as of late. Ring of Honor, New Japan. WWE this past Monday talking about announcing the first women's pay-per-view. Reigns and Lesnar main eventing Summerslam, and how fans' reaction to that, and several other things. So anyway, let's talk about some of that right now. Let me get Brian Zane in here first. Let me make sure I get him in here. There he is. Yeah, let's talk about a little bit. And again, I do apologize if anything happens here. Let's talk about a bit. Again, I do apologize. Just looking up. Here we go. Oh, here he is, Dalyxman. All right, let's talk about, first of all, I guess it's right off the bat. So let's talk about Impact Wrestling, shall we? Let's talk about the fact that Impact Wrestling, as of late, according to a lot of fans, and from what we saw at Slammiversary, has been absolutely on fire lately. I mean, here's a company formerly known as Total Nonstop Action, TNA Wrestling, that when it first began back in 2002, and for quite a while was a decent, if not great, alternative to WWE and even Ring of Honor. Here's a company that, as it grew, made partnerships with AAA, made partnerships with New Japan, you name it. But for some reason, in the later years, it started to go downhill. I mean, it looked like they were picking up a little bit when they got Hogan and Bischoff behind the regime, and they were able to straighten things out there behind the scenes. In other words, kind of make them realize, hey, this isn't like WCW. You ain't gonna pull that kind of backstage politicking, backstage employment kind of BS here. So yeah, basically. So yeah, after that kind of got straightened out, they started to seem to, like I said, it seemed to have the ball rolling a little bit in their favor. They really started to get things going in their favor. Um, but then as time went on, they started to drop off again. Things were happening behind the scenes that just were messing them up. And they did what they could. They did what they could to survive, and they were treading. They were treading on a lot of water. They were close, according to several sources, to going down. And then finally, Anthem came in, said, "Hey, we'll take this." And even though they had some bumpy roads, and especially with the whole, who owns the rights to the Broken Universe gimmick, after finally settling that and letting the Hardys have it, they've slowly but surely started to rebuild themselves, rebuild their reputation, and now they're starting to become more of what the company was originally founded on. And you got people like Scott D'Amore and Don Callis behind the scenes, in front of the camera, doing what they can to make sure this is the product that it needs to be. And nothing but applause there. There's nothing but applause. And obviously it's showing, because apparently they're giving fans what they want. I mean, heck, if you take a look at some of the storylines they got going on right now, like with LAX and the OGs, Sammy Callahan and Pentagon Jr., or known as Pentagon Dark, if you will, in Lucha Underground, they feel very Lucha Underground-ish. You can probably tell you could probably tell that they took what they did during the run with the Hardys in the Broken Universe there, and they're applying and they're taking what they're learning from Lucha Underground and they're bringing it together. That's what it looks like to me. It looks like to me what they're doing is they're creating a hybrid of what they used, with the Broken Universe situation and what's being used in Lucha Underground. And I wouldn't be surprised if people in Lucha Underground behind the scenes are working with them, or at least helping them out, giving them some inspiration, some influence as to how to do things. I would not be surprised if that's the case. I would not be surprised. So yeah, whatever they're doing, like I said, apparently they're taking what they earned or used during the Hardy situation, when they would do the Broken Universe and stuff, and the vignettes and the, on location movie, like cinematic kind of situation, vignettes and backstage moments, and hybriding it, easy for me to say, with what they see going on in the Lucha Underground, and they're basically putting that together, and obviously it's working. Obviously it's working because it's getting a reaction. People are loving it. People are loving it, and I don't blame them. I really don't. And Slammiversary, and here's the thing. What they're doing here is a great influx of talent from all across the board. I mean, you got Taji Ishimori, who is a Pro Wrestling Noah guy. Obviously, his contract with them or time with them came up, went to New Japan, was revealed to be the Bone Soldier, or at least the newest Bone Soldier. And thus, you have some kind of working agreement there now, not totally on the levels of what Ring of Honor has, but you obviously have some kind of working agreement with New Japan Pro Wrestling because you got the freaking Bone Soldier working your tapings and your pay-per-view. You know, so obviously they're doing something right. I mean, you got all these. I mean, like I said, I mentioned Pentagon Junior, Pentagon Dark, Phoenix. You know, you got these guys from Impact, from AAA and Lucha known for their time not just in AAA but mostly Lucha Underground. You got them coming in and giving you basically, if you're an Impact Wrestling fan, if not an overall fan of wrestling that probably has heard about Lucha Underground but don't know if you want to check it out, giving you a taste of what they present. I can't say any more than what I'm seeing here. I can't say any more than this is just magnificent. This is just a decent direction. Obviously, what's going on is, I mean, to me, it's just a great direction to go in. It's a great decision to go and do these kind of things, make these partnerships with AAA, with Pro Wrestling Noah, with possibly New Japan now, with other promotions around the world. You know, it's great that they're doing this because it's opening the door for a lot of this talent to come around. I mean, heck, they're teaming up. They are teaming up with all these independent promotions here in the States, each to put together some cross-promotional events that you could watch on Twitch. I mean, like tomorrow they got excuse me, they got an event, I think, with AWL or something, whatever they're called, that an independent promotion, I think, called AWL. I think that's what it is. They got a crossover event broadcasting tomorrow night on Twitch with that promotion. They've done it. They got one upcoming, I think, with Defy. You know, they did one recently with Rise of the Knockouts, with the Rise promotion. So they are doing things that are definitely the right things to do. They are definitely making the right moves. And you take a look, and you take someone like Don Callis and Scott D'Amore, and you put their minds together. Apparently, you got magic, because Don Callis is taking obviously what he's learning in New Japan, seeing how they're producing stuff of their shows and everything. He's bringing it here. He's bringing that mindset here, and then you got Scott D'Amore taking what made this company what it was in the past, bringing that here, and then adding in all these new elements and influences from all these other promotions that they're partnering with. And obviously, you got something there that people are enjoying. You got a product people love. And a lot of people are basically saying, and Lord forgive me for saying this, you got a lot of people saying that it's about damn time. It's about damn time that Impact Wrestling got off the you-know-what and started being the Impact Wrestling that put themselves on the map back in 2002. You know, you got that feeling once again from a lot, you know, in the eyes of a lot of fans. You got that feeling again, that very, very familiar feeling that this is what Impact Wrestling should have been in the first place. It should have been like this in the first place. And again, I do apologize for any kind of lag. But you're getting that now. You're getting something that a lot of people basically feel is about time. You know, you got people basically feeling that this is the right move to finally make. For this company, because this company would have gone down under if it wasn't for a changing of the guard. And my honest opinion, is I honestly think Anthem saw what was happening, and they said, no, we can't let this happen. We cannot, you know, let this company that has potential to still be great go down this path, and they're not letting it. Thank God they're not letting it. So yeah, all the praise goes obviously to Anthem for doing what they had to do for basically. I mean, again, Anthem didn't start out in the right manner, dealing with that whole situation with the Hardys. But thank God somebody knocked Ed Norham, no disrespect, upside the head and made him realize, hey, look, you're not going to win this. And what are we going to really do with it? There's no way the Hardys are going to come back. Why don't you just let them have it? Someone probably talked sense into him and say, look, let them have it for what they're going to do. We can take what we learned from them and apply it to stars of our own. Let's focus on rebuilding this company and making it into that company that it needs to be to make a profit and be a success. And thankfully somebody, like I said, obviously knocked Ed Norham upside the head, with all due respect, and made him realize that. So thank God for that. And now take a look. People are starting to see Impact Wrestling in a more positive light than they did before. Now are a lot of people totally on board yet? Not really. Not really. Slammiversary may have given them one of the best wrestling shows of the year, but they're not on board just yet. They got to have one more convincing moment, one more convincing event to get them back on board. And that is going to be coming October 14th. October 14th at the Melrose Ballroom in New York City, Queens, New York. That right there is going to be basically the be-all, end-all for Impact Wrestling and its momentum. Does Bound for Glory continue the momentum they need into 2019, or does Bound for Glory basically extinguish the fire that has been lit under the you-know-whats in the past couple of months, if not the past year? Does it do that? Does it do that? That is the answer we all have to hopefully get. That's the answer we're all going to hopefully get come October 14th. And this is and speaking of the location, this is one thing I will give them credit for. In the past, they would try to hold pay-per-view events and even Impact Wrestling tapings in bigger venues. And sometimes the venues weren't, massively big, and they would get a decent crowd, but at times they wouldn't sell out. And the way you want to make your product look good or come off good on television is you want to sell out the event, or at least have a near sellout crowd for the event to make your product come off good on television, so that word will get out, hey, you should check out this product. And Impact Wrestling in the past was not doing that. They were not doing that. They were not, how do I put this? They were not doing that the right way. I mean, yes, they would get a decent amount of crowds when they would go to the Family Center in St. Louis, or they go to this event or this venue or that venue. They'd get a decent sized crowd, but in the end, it wouldn't be a sellout. I mean, heck, one of the biggest jokes, if you will, for this company was when they had lockdown at the Alamo Dome. The Alamo Dome. And what did they do to try to make it come off as being a sellout, or at least having a decent sized crowd at the event? How'd they do this? How'd they make it? What did they do to make it look like it was a decent sized crowd? What did they do? They tapered off a majority of the freaking Alamo Dome and focused mainly around the 20-yard line area of that venue, and that was it. And they had that They had to make makeshift stands in some areas. They had to put. Yes, on paper, and visually, it looked all right. It looked good. and they had a decent sized crowd. But you're basically you're basically you're ba- to me it was more along the lines that, yeah, you had a decent sized crowd, but you're basically making yourselves look like idiots. Because if you're going to book something like the Alamo Dome, don't just book it and then say, hey, we're going to just use this portion of the arena, of the venue, and we're going to taper off the rest. How do you think the people in San Antonio felt? The people in charge of the Alamo Dome felt? Oh, we're going to rent. Oh, yeah, we'll rent you out our venue, no problem. And then they find out, well, wait a minute. So you're only going to use 20% of the venue, and that's it? What sense does that make? How do you think they felt? They felt foolish. Thank God that the new regime behind the scenes are realizing they can't do that kind of stuff anymore. That if they're going to book venues, they either got to book things like state college gymnasiums, or they got to book things like the Rebel Complex in Toronto, or in this case, the Melrose Ballroom, because they know they're going to get a sellout. Could they have gotten a sellout at the Hammerstein Ballroom? Oh, absolutely. Could they have gotten a sellout in the main ballroom where like Raw used to be and where Impact actually had a decent crowd one time? Before Anthem came on board? Oh yeah, absolutely. They could have done that. And they could still do that. But I think when you look at what they're trying to do, they realize that, okay, not only are we going to have our events here, but we're going to have our tapings as well the following couple of days, or for this upcoming week. They realize that not a lot of people are going to want to keep coming back and forth to the Hammerstein Ballroom or the main dining room or whatever theater at the Manhattan Center every night to try to sell out. They know people are going to have other. They know people have other lives. They know people, have jobs to do, and they want to stay home. So they realize they're not going to sell out. They're not going to be able to sell out the entire thing, like the entire Hammerstein Ballroom or the Manhattan Center Ballroom or whatever it was, every night. So booking something like the Rebel, booking something like the Melrose Ballroom is the smart choice, because you'll get a decent sized crowd there every night. You know that. You will get a decent sized crowd every night that you show up, that they have a show there. I mean, heck, MLW, Major League Wrestling, is decent crowds there because they know that if they try to book a bigger venue like Hammerstein Ballroom, no one's going to want to keep coming every night. They know that. They realize that. Again, just checking on my dog. She moved over to her caddy, into her little dog house. Her caddy's asleep. It's warm outside. It's about 100 now, so can't blame her. But anyway, MLW is smart enough to realize that. Impact Wrestling's noticing that. So that's what they're doing. They're realizing, look, yeah, we could do Hammerstein. We can do the main hall of Manhattan Center that Raw used to be in, or the main section of the Manhattan Center that Raw used to be in. We could do all that. But they realize that they're not there yet. That the rebuild, they realize, Callis, Damore, and everybody else behind the scenes, they realize, hey, we're not there yet. We're getting there, but it's baby steps still to not only make this company look good or come off looking good on television, but it's also baby steps in gaining the people's trust again. And the way they do that is by basically doing what they have to do to make sure Impact Wrestling removes itself away from what gave it a negative vibe. And this, obviously, the direction they're going in is a great direction. It's a really great direction. And already they got things set up, apparently, for Bound for Glory. Nothing's on paper yet. I haven't read the spoilers or anything, but they got things set up for Bound for Glory already. I mean, you take a look at the fact that rumors are abound that they're probably going to do Su Yung and Rosemary in a freaking casket match, if not some kind of hardcore match between the two, whether it's Bob Wyatt or whatever, for the Knockouts title, which, if you're doing that, obviously Rosemary's going to come out and win, or come out on top and win. Obviously, right now, that they're setting up for Eddie Edwards and Austin Aries, possibly, at Bound for Glory. That's in the works, apparently. They're probably going to do Brian Cage, Johnny Impact, and Congo Kong, and perhaps Matt Sydal in a Ultimate X or some kind of fatal four-way or four-way dance for the X Division title. And if they keep this thing going with LAX and the OGs, that you're probably building up to another barbed wire massacre match. As crazy as that sounds. So a lot of things, a lot of the planning stages and the wheels are turning in these planning stages for making Bound for Glory a major league deal, but in a way, yes, and basically a major deal. The wheels are spinning to make this a event that people are going to enjoy. So that's going to happen. Bound that some of these matches are bound to happen if Impact Wrestling doesn't hold a special edition of Impact, under one of the original TNA pay-per-view names, like Impact Wrestling presents Lockdown, like the special edition of Impact Wrestling titled Lockdown, or Impact Wrestling special edition titled No Surrender. You kind of get the idea. Or Impact Wrestling's Victory Road. You get the idea. It all depends whether or not, like I said, in between now and Bound for Glory, if they don't have these special themes, if not one special themed edition of Impact, or at least a two-part special edition of Impact, named after one of the original TNA pay-per-views, like Lockdown, No Surrender, Victory Road, Genesis, you name it. Because if they have a special event, if they have a special edition of Impact named after one of those previous TNA pay-per-views, then to get people's attention, whether it's just a one-night deal or a 2-1-night deal or a 2-week deal, they're going to do possibly a title change or two on those events to get people talking so that they tune into Bound for Glory. But if they don't, and they use these next couple of Impact tapings in the next couple of months to build up to Bound for Glory for what they have already in the works, then I think they're going to be in a good state. I'm not saying they won't be in a good state if they do a Lockdown theme edition of Impact Wrestling, or if they do a No Surrender themed edition of Impact Wrestling. And like I said, they have a title change here and there, either on this one night special themed edition of Impact, or 2-week event, 2-week special themed edition of Impact. I would not be surprised. But I don't think they're building things like Edwards and Aries and possibly Su Yung, Rosemary, for stuff like that. Just for those special themed broadcasts of Impact. I don't think they're doing that. I think they're building them up slowly for Bound for Glory, because Bound for Glory is Impact Wrestling's WrestleMania. And WrestleMania, and basically a WrestleMania themed event, that's basically the place you want to, bring everything together. You want to have basically a climax and a culmination of all storylines that people have been paying attention to, that people have been tuning into your product to pay attention to and to see what's going to happen next. That people have been tuning in to your YouTube page and clicking on certain 4 or 5 minute clips to see what's going to happen, or to see what's happening, what's going to happen next, and speculate. Bound for Glory, like I said, which is Impact Wrestling's WrestleMania, is going to be the event that everything that's going on now is going to culminate. It's going to climax. It's going to basically have a final chapter for the time being. And if that means Edwards beating Aries to become champion, and that sort of brings Edwards slowly back to the Eddie Edwards that used to just be about wrestling and not being a new innovator of violence, if that means Su Young's dominance over the Knockouts division ends by her being put in a casket, and then later on they do a vignette similar to what happened about a couple of months ago, about a month or so ago, to write Rosemary off due to injury, or write Rosemary off television due to injury, by having Su Yung light the casket that Rosemary was supposedly in on fire. If it culminates in that, with Rosemary turning the tables and doing it to Su Yung, and like I said, and it culminates with the OGs and LAX, I should say, meeting one more time, possibly in a barbed wire match, barbed wire massacre, then so be it. This is where it all comes to a head. So hopefully Bound for Glory helps continue the momentum that Impact Wrestling has right now, because you know what? If Impact Wrestling keeps this up, not only are they going to have more viewers tuning in, but they are going to take a major portion of that viewership from WWE, that fan base from WWE, and they're going to start tuning into this Impact Wrestling product and be like, hey, this is what we want. This is what we've been missing. This is what that company's been missing. But we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, Impact Wrestling right now is on fire. And it looked like what Slammiversary did for a majority of the matches there, with the exception of the world title match and stuff. It seemed to me that what they were doing was basically paving the way and saying that, with the likes of Brian Cage going over and Su Yung going over and the new LAX going over, and Pentagon Jr. and what is what I'm saying? With some of the matches, except for the World Championship, they're basically saying that with Cage winning and Su Yung winning and LAX winning, that they're paving the way for the future. That these young guys from the new LAX, Santana and Ortiz, to Su Yung, to Brian Cage, these are the future. These are the future of wrestling. These are the future stars. This is what wrestling needs to focus on, the future. And that's what we're going to do. That's what Impact's going to do. And that's what they're doing. So I'll give them a lot of credit for doing that. That is exactly what they're doing. So give them a lot of credit for doing that. Really, really good move on Impact's part. But again, it's up to them to continue the momentum going into Bound for Glory on October 14th. All right. Speaking of October, Speaking of October, let's see what else I have to say here. I do apologize for any lag. Okay, first of all, before I get into that, let's talk about this. And I've talked about it before. I didn't get a chance to talk about it since things have changed a lot, because obviously there's been a lot of change happening. Ring of Honor and New Japan Pro Wrestling gaining Madison Square Garden. Yes. I think I talked about it briefly, but a lot of people have talked about this. This is a big, big deal, because Madison Square Garden has always been known as a WWE homegrown venue. Basically, Madison Square Garden was WWE's answer to the, in a sense, as crazy as it sounds, Madison Square Garden was WWE's answer to WCW NWA's Omni in Atlanta. See, the Omni in Atlanta, the original Omni, was always the home base for a majority of a lot of NWA, WCW events, live events, pay-per-views, Clash of Champions to take place in. I think they even had a Nitro and a Thunder there, and even a Saturday night. But it was mainly like the be-all, end-all kind of place for a lot of major things to go down, even if it was a live event. And Madison Square Garden was basically WWE's equivalent of the Omni. In a unique kind of euphoric way, it was also like their equivalent of the ECW arena. This was the home arena. And basically nobody touches Madison Square Garden except WWE. Well, that's all changed. That is all changed because now, not only does Madison Square Garden plan to probably host a AAA wrestling event later this year, I think in 2 months maybe, from what I understand, but now they're planning to host Ring of Honor and New Japan Pro Wrestling on WrestleMania weekend with the event known as the G1 Supercard. And this is going to be happening the same night as NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 4. I think that's what it's called. Oh, wait. Yeah. Yeah, it's NXT Brooklyn 4, I believe, or Brooklyn 5. And it's taking place in April. Yeah. NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 4 or 5, I can't think of the name right now, is taking place on the same night as the G1 Supercard. And that's taking place in Madison Square Garden. Well, NXT TakeOver is taking place at the Barclays Center. Oh boy. If you're a wrestling fan, you're going to really have you're going to have a tough decision on your hands. You're really going to. You're really going to have a tough decision on your hands because on one hand, NXT takeovers never disappoint, especially if it's a takeover before an event like WrestleMania. But then again, you want to see but then again, you want to be part of history. You want to be part of something you never thought would ever happen. I mean, the closest this has ever happened was WCW, but all WCW could get was the Paramount Theater within Madison Square Garden, and that was it. We're talking the actual 20,000 or 25,000 plus seat venue, which, from what I understand, they may be configuring to at least fit about 15,000 people. They may be configuring to do that. They might even configure it to just do 1,500 people, which would be more suitable, which would be more of a subtle kind of way. But still, this is a big deal because you wouldn't think Madison Square Garden would do this. And here's the thing. They almost didn't do this. All because of the fact that WWE apparently, and a lot of people are saying Vince McMahon's the reason, apparently WWE called up and said, hey, X-nay on the ROH. Basically, this is what happened. They got on the phone. Here. Apparently, according to what people are saying, Vince McMahon probably gave the word and probably had them dial up Madison Square Garden and say, go like, X-nay on the ROHA, no can do a, get our point a. We can't do your event, Ring of Honor. Sorry. And that was it. And what happened? Jeff Cobb, head of Sinclair and I think Ring of Honor, said, okay, WWE wants to play the game. We'll play the game, the legal game. And guess what happened? Madison Square Garden basically, and guess what happened? Ring of Honor, along with the help of New Japan, said, you want to play? We'll play. And in the end, they got Madison Square Garden. They got what was needed. And WWE apparently put out a statement saying, yeah, it's okay, fine, they can do it, whatever. You could tell WWE through that statement is not happy. And like I said before, if WWE wants to make sure something like this doesn't happen again, they need to work out a deal with Madison Square Garden that states that only Madison Square Garden can host WWE events. That only WWE events can be part of Madison Square Garden, and that's it. You know, they need to work out some kind of deal that makes that happen if they don't want something like this to happen again. And I'm pretty sure they're already doing that as we speak. They're probably working on some kind of deal that says after the G1 Supercard, no other wrestling promotion can be that no other wrestling promotion can, take place at Madison Square Garden except for WWE and WWE related promotions or related promotions or brands. So, in other words, like I said before when I talked about this, if you are enjoying this now, you better enjoy it as best you can. Ring of Honor better enjoy it. New Japan better enjoy it because WWE, after the G1 Supercard, is going to probably make sure, if not already working on it, make sure that no other promotion steps foot in that place except for WWE and WWE-related promotions or related brands. And this is what I think is going to happen. WWE is going to make sure that this never, not only is WWE going to make sure this doesn't happen again, and they will, but what they're going to do is they're going to work out some kind of deal to where not only do they make sure this doesn't happen again, but they're going to work out a deal to where Madison Square Garden gets exactly what they want. Because you see, one of the complaints apparently people have been saying that Madison Square Garden has been having is that WWE is not hosting Raw or SmackDown or pay-per-views there anymore. It's like, yeah, cool, you're doing these live events. That's great. You're doing these network specials that are basically live event house shows here and everything. That's great. But where's the pay-per-views? Where's Monday Night Raw? Where's SmackDown Live? Where's all this? Where's the rest that you used to do here? And obviously they're not happy about that. And one of the rumors people have, or one of the things people say is going around for the reasoning, is because it's cost a little too much for Madison to book Madison Square Garden for a Raw, for a SmackDown, or a pay-per-view. But here's what I think is going to happen. WWE is going to work out a deal, if not, like I said, working on it already, and they're going to say, okay, fine, you want us to bring Raw and SmackDown and pay-per-views back? Fine, here's what we can do, blah, 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 blah. They're going to work it out to where before you know it, you're going to get an announcement on an edition of Monday Night Raw to where Michael Cole is going to say, hey, you might want to tune in next week to Monday Night Raw because we're going to return home to Madison Square Garden. You're going to get that announcement. And it's all going to be because of the deal that's going to go down. The deal that's going to go down that's going to make sure WWE is the only game in town that Madison Square Garden, or wrestling game in town, that Madison Square Garden plays host to. They're going to make sure, or one way or another, that happens. And even if that means they have to bring Raw and SmackDown and pay-per-views back. And here's the thing. It's like people like Dalyxman and OTR Central and everybody else says. They're going to be getting $2.5 million a year now. Or $2.5 billion a year, $1 million a year or something like that with this Fox deal and the USA deal, and the new USA deal they're getting. So you can't tell me they won't be able to afford to bring Raw, SmackDown, and a pay-per-view back to MSG, because they will. And that's going to be part of, and to me, that's going to help become that motivational part that makes this deal go down. So like I said before, whether you like it or you don't like it, whether you like it or don't like it, you know WWE is going to make sure that the G1 Supercard is the last time any other promotions host wrestling inside Madison Square Garden. You just know it. You just know it. So, again, enjoy it while we can. Let's enjoy it while we can. Let's enjoy this moment in time while we can, because after the G1 Supercard, it's just going to be WWE straightforward on way through. And they're going to make sure not only do they book live events there, they're going to make sure now that they're getting that money coming in, they're going to make sure they book Raws, SmackDown Lives, and pay-per-views to make sure no one else books Madison Square Garden. And in the long run, make sure Madison Square Garden is WWE, is WWE ground only. So, let's just enjoy this moment in time, guys. Let's just enjoy this moment in time, because we know as we speak, WWE's legal team and people up in Stamford, Connecticut are working tirelessly behind the scenes to make sure this never happens again. But you know what? Here's the thing. WWE's got no one to blame but themselves. They got no one else to blame but themselves. Because they should have made sure they locked down Madison Square Garden as their home base a long time ago. But again, they have no one to blame but themselves because of one reason. Madison Square Garden may appreciate having live events, but they want the big time. They want the bigger events. They want the Raws. They want the SmackDowns. They want the live events. I mean, not the live events, but the pay-per-view events. And WWE has not been giving that to them. And now they'll finally and now this might be exactly what's needed to make that happen. And it probably is going to. So that's really all I can say, though, folks, on this. But I do wish Ring of Honor and New Japan Pro Wrestling all the best in this. Because you know what? This is a moment in time. It's a moment in time. So let's just savor it. Let's enjoy it while we can. Be right back. God, folks, had to get a Sprite. Talking a lot here, so again, I do apologize for any lags or anything. All right, like I was saying earlier before I got into that, let's go back to the month of October. Let's go back to the upcoming month of October, because as we saw this past Monday on Raw, it was officially announced that on October 28th, I believe, let me make sure, because I think that might be a Sunday. Yep, it's a Sunday. But basically, see, August, September, in about 3 months. Yeah, because a month from now is August 28th. 2 months is September 28th. 3 months. So about 90 days from today, in 90 days, WWE will be presenting its first ever all-women's pay-per-view, Evolution. And already we have 5 matches confirmed. Now, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. The matches are confirmed, but the opponents are not. Because the matches that are confirmed are the finals of the Mae Young class of this year's Mae Young Classic, the NXT UK Women's Championship, which will be the newest championship to be defended on this show, the NXT Women's Championship, the SmackDown Live Women's Championship, and the Raw Women's Championship. So you got 5 matches already confirmed. The only exception, the only loophole, is we don't know who the actual participants will be in these matchups. Now, it is scheduled to have at least 8 matches here. So you have 4 championships. You got the finals of the Mae Young Classic. So you need 3 more matches to fill the card. There are rumors going around that since it's been announced that the Legends Hall of Famers of Beth Phoenix, Trish Stratus, and Lita have been confirmed for this event, speculation is already being thrown around that 2 matches may actually happen. One match being started up on Twitter by Mickie James could be a rematch of a long-term rivalry that everybody enjoyed during the Ruthless Aggression era, and that's Mickie James versus Trish Stratus. I would be up for that. I would love to see that. I mean, did you see the reaction those two got when the crowd at the Royal Rumble, during the Women's Royal Rumble match, noticed it was just those two standing face to face? People want that. They remember that rivalry, and they want to see it again. So I have no doubt that our 6th match, as we get closer to Evolution, is going to be confirmed to be Trish and Mickie. I have no doubt about that. And I don't think anybody else does. Now, there is another match being rumored via Twitter. And that is Bayley throwing out the challenge for Lita. Hey, that'd be interesting to see Lita versus Bayley. That might be something. Who knows? That might be something. I look forward to something like I would definitely look forward to seeing that happen. I'd definitely like to see that happen, but we'll have to see. Now, it's supposed to be about 8 matches, but we'll probably know in WWE they got 50 women. They want to bring in they want to have 50 women part of this, past, present, and future. So I wouldn't be surprised if the right now rumored 8-match lineup goes to about at least 10. So I would say 10 matches. So you got 5 confirmed, 2 rumored, 1 probably going to be confirmed with Trish and Mickie, one that's had a challenge thrown out there, and that's Bayley to Lita. So that could be 7. But then you have 3 more if they go to the roundup of 10. But they want to keep it under 3 hours, so they say right now. Excuse me there. So we know they're probably going to put a Battle Royal in there. And the winner will be the first ever Evolution Battle Royal. We know that's going to probably happen. But then again, you also have the potential for something to really take off. And hopefully WWE realizes they got this right in the palm of their hands. I hope they realize they got this in the palm of their hands, because I don't even know Dalyxman if he's known about this. But think about this, folks. Think about this. You have Asuka. You have Kairi Sane. You have the new girl, the new Japanese girl. I can't think of her name right now. Aru or something. Aru Sura? I can't pronounce it. But you got those 3 under contract. I think booking for a special triple threat Japanese strong style women's match books itself, don't you think? Who is the dominant Japanese female wrestler in WWE? Is it Asuka? Is it Kairi Sane? Is it Suri? Who is it? This here opens this here. The booking is right in the palm of WWE's hands. Make it happen. Hey, you got this Japanese legend that's now part of the Mae Young Classic. You could do a freaking fatal 4-way to see who's the best female Japanese wrestler. Right, it books itself. And that's a special attraction match that if you're a hardcore wrestling fan and a wrestling purist, like Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez, Dalyxman, OTR Central, well, maybe not OTR Central, but you get the point. That there writes itself. It writes itself. And you know what? I hope Alex, Dalyxman, brings this up tomorrow, and I'll freaking super chat him if I have to bring it up. Think about it. It writes itself. And that's a special attraction match fans in the Nassau Coliseum, a New York fan base, a smart Alec fan base, smart Mark, hardcore wrestling fan base would want to see. Especially with the fact that 3 of those ladies, if you do a fatal 4-way, are officially under WWE contract. And then you bring back in this Mocha, whatever her name is. I can't think of her name right now. But you bring her back in to be part of it. Holy crap. Holy crap. I mean, what else can be said? What else can be said? It books itself. I mean, you already have 5 established matches. Again, only loopholes. We don't know who the participants are going to be. You have most definitely, in my opinion, an already confirmed matchup. WWE just has to confirm it come September. And Trish Stratus against Mickie James. You have the potential to do a, generational matchup between Bayley and Lita, maybe. So you have 7 matches there. And if you're going to go the whole spectrum of 10, you got a battle royal. That's 8. You need something else if you're not going to do a tag team championship match or crown women's tag team champions or a women's intercontinental champion. You need something that's going to get people to want to attend, especially as a hardcore purist. And something like a triple threat between your 3 signed, well-renowned female Japanese athletes is something fans would want to see. If you have Asuka, Kairi Sane, and Suri, whatever her name is, going at it against each other, hold on. And again, I do apologize for any lag. Shuri. I'm sorry if I pronounced it wrong. I-O or L-O, Shuri. You have Asuka, you have Shuri, you have Kairi Sane, and then you have this other woman. If I can find what her name is. Hold on. She's in here somewhere. Miko Satomura? 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 You have her as well. Like I said, Suri, as well as Zane, Asuka, Shuri. Again, it writes itself. The booking for that match writes itself. It does. It writes itself. And not only does it write itself, but it would be the best special attraction match you could have. And basically you could give it a theme of who is the overall best female Japanese athlete. I'm just saying. Just saying, folks, it writes itself. It writes itself. And honestly, I don't think, and again, like I said, it's in the middle of their hands. It's right in the middle of their hands. And again, right now they are saying 8 matches, but I'm not going to be surprised if they go 10. Because you got 5 matches established already, one being the finals of the Mae Young Classic. You got a potential, if not already confirmed, going to be confirmed, matchup with Trish Stratus and Mickie James. So that's 6 matches right there. You need to fill 4 more. You got Bayley throwing out the challenge to Lita. So you could probably have Bayley and Lita if you don't do Bayley and Sasha. So that's 7. You got a Battle Royal, which makes 8. This here would be a great 9th match to put out there. It would be a great match. It would be a great addition. So that's 9 if you do this either as a triple threat, matchup between Shuri, Zane, and Asuka, or if you add in Satomura, make it a fatal 4-way. And to round it out with a number 10, who knows? To round it out, with a number 10, you could have, I don't know, a tag team match if you want to. You could have a tag team match. You could have the semifinalist of the of the Mae Young Classic team up against whoever or something, but 10 matches. So let me make sure I got this. So let me make sure I got this right, okay? So we have 5 matches. According to Wikipedia here, we have 5 matches. Okay, so we have 5 matches here. Now, like I said, if they go 8 matches, which right now it's being reported that may be the direction they go in. If it's just 8 matches, then again, you already got 5 confirmed. You got a Battle Royal, which will probably make 6. You got Mickie and Trish would make 7. And then to me, the 8th match would have to be that fatal 4-way or triple threat match between the female Japanese athletes that, from a storyline perspective, you could say is to determine who is the very best Japanese wrestler. Who is the best women's Japanese wrestler out there between Asuka, Zane, Shuri, and maybe Satomura. And again, hardcore purists would want to see that. They'd want to see that kind of a match take place. Now, if you go 9 to 8 matches, that could, you could have that happen too. or 9 to 10 matches, you would have now if they go 9 to 10 if they go 10 matches, not only could you have something like that, but the other 2 matches could be any kind of match they want. You know, if they want to say, if they want to make this historic, they can basically have these be one-on-one matchups for newly crowned championships. I mean, we got, like I said, 90 days until this event. Between now and then, on SmackDown and Raw and NXT UK, you know, they could have qualifying matches, and the winners could face each other either on Raw or SmackDown. You know, they could have some kind of like qualifying match or whatever. You know, however they want to do it. Like, because I'm sorry if I pause there. I'm just thinking. You know, however they want to do it. Like I said, we got 90 days between now and then. You could have on Raw and SmackDown qualifying matches involving the women from all 3, if not all 4 brands, and to where, you know, the winners would face each other. Let's say you have, okay, for example, between now and then, you could have triple threats or fatal 4-ways with 4, like you could have fatal 4-ways between one woman from Raw, one woman from SmackDown, one woman from NXT, one woman from NXT UK. You can have those matchups happen, and then the winners of a fatal 4-way on Raw and fatal 4-way on SmackDown meet each other at Evolution to crown maybe a women's Intercontinental Champion. Just saying. And yeah, you can still do the tag team titles too. You want to make this historic, you want to make people get invested in it, then do the tag team titles. How do you do it? You do a mini tournament. You don't have to go like, oh, well, we need 8 teams, 16 teams. No, you can choose 4 teams, 4 established teams already from all brands, if you have to. You got the Iconics. They're pretty much set up and ready to go. You got Alexa and Mickie James. If Mickie James doesn't face Trish, that's set up and ready to go. You got Sasha and Bayley. That's set up and ready to go. And then perhaps from NXT, you have one of their teams, maybe the team that Aaliyah is managing, up and ready to go. Kind of get what I'm saying? Get what I'm saying? What I'm pointing out is, if they go the 8-match route, then it works. You know, you got a battle royal. You can do, like I said, you could still do the who is the best Japanese female athlete, either the fatal 4-way or triple threat. You know, so you got those 2. You got potentially Trish and Mickie James, and then you got the women's. You got the finals of the Mae Young Classic as well as the championship matches. So, you know, either way, either they go 8 matches or 10 matches or 9 matches, doesn't matter. You know, they want to make this a big deal. They're gonna hopefully. You know, it doesn't matter how they do it, but you know well, it does matter how they do it. But the thing is, they want to make this a big deal. They're gonna have to make sure they book it correctly. They got to make sure they book it correctly. They book it right. And like I said, you know, the potential is there for a lot of good matchups. Like I said, if they go the 10-match route, you could still do your tag team. You could still do the crowning of women's tag team champions and the crowning of maybe a women's Intercontinental Champion. Think about that. Think about that. Stephanie McMahon, I mean, come on. According to Stephanie McMahon, she's alluded to the tag team titles in an interview with Sky Sports. There's probably allusions to an Intercontinental Championship. Who knows? But there are a bunch of stuff there. But there's a bunch of hints here and there that say we're not going to have 8 matches. We'll have 10 matches. Heck, you know what? You don't even have to have an Intercontinental Championship crown, a women's Intercontinental Champion crown. No, you know what you can do? You can do a Legends match. Yeah, a Legends match. Heck, that Legends match could be Mickie and Trish. Or Think about this. A Legends Dream match. Think about this. You could have Alundra Blaze, Medusa, come back, wrestle in the ring. You ready for this? This would be interesting. You can have Medusa face Stephanie McMahon. Think about that. Think of the story that they could build just for this moment. I know Solid Monster doesn't want to see Stephanie McMahon in the ring, but think about this. Stephanie McMahon, from the eyes of a lot of fans, is taking too much credit for the women's evolution and the women's revolution and stuff like that. She's taking all the credit. Bring Alundra Blaze out. Bring Medusa out. Have her confront Stephanie McMahon and have that build up to a matchup at Evolution, where you have Alundra Blaze beat Stephanie McMahon. And thus, Stephanie McMahon not only gets beat and humbled, but you add the stipulation that Stephanie no longer takes credit for what's going on. Think about it. Think about the reaction Medusa would get for standing up to Stephanie McMahon. And from a storyline perspective, think about it this way. This could be just like they did with Bret Hart and they kind of dropped the ball on when he came back and feuded and had that match, and he kind of had that feud with Vince that led to that match at WrestleMania 26. I think it was 26. Think about this. All right, think about this. Medusa could come back and in storyline can confront Stephanie McMahon for not only taking credit for something she really didn't have nothing to do with in the first place. And on top of that, you can have it built around the fact that Medusa has been wanting to get her hands on the McMahons for a while for what they did to her. For what they did to the women's division back when she was a part of it. For destroying it, for dismantling it. As well as basically blackballing her from the company for a while because of what she did on Nitro. The story, just to go to Evolution, this story arc, just to build it for Evolution, writes itself. And I can't think of any other woman better than Alundra Blaze Medusa to fill that role, to be to face off against Stephanie McMahon. There you go. Perfect. There's your 8-match lineup if they go 8 matches for the 3-hour run. Your championship matches, your Mae Young Classic, which is 5. Your possible, if not most definitely confirmed, Trish and Mickie James. That's 6. Your Battle Royal. And Alundra Blaze, Stephanie McMahon. It writes itself. It writes itself. And I don't think anybody else knows how good that could be in the long run. I don't think they do. But now the question is, with this event upcoming in 90 days, who are the champions to go in? Now, I don't know what's going on with the UK brand yet. Okay? I don't know what's going on with the UK brand. And I do apologize for any lag. Again, I don't know what's going on with the UK brands. Again, I don't know what's going on. I know that they're supposed to be crowning tag team champions and a women's champion at the upcoming tapings. At these upcoming tapings. Now, logic would say that the woman Now, hmm? Hmm. Like I said, logic would indicate for the women that Toni Storm, very well known women's UK British wrestler, should be the one to walk out with the women's championship. Everybody knows who she is. She's mainstream. Everybody that's a wrestling fan knows who she is. It makes sense that she'd be the one. Makes sense that she would be the one, right? But we don't know that. We're just checking exactly what's going on right now. But we don't know that. So whoever the women's champion is, you'd have to think it's somebody they can depend on, or someone that maybe the fans know about. But again, logic would say Toni Storm. And I think that would be the best choice. So she should be the women's UK champion, the UK women's champion going into Evolution, Toni Storm. She's already going to be part of the Mae Young Classic. It makes sense that she should be women's champion going into this event. She. Well, they're not done yet, apparently. But anyway, logic would say Toni Storm. Now you might say, well, Dakota Kai could. Dakota Kai, I don't think she's UK. I think she's, well, she might be. I don't know. But either Dakota, if she is or not, British or British related, or Toni Storm. But I think logic would say Toni Storm. Now, with that said, you might say, well, what about the other women's champions? Now, here's the thing. Takeover Brooklyn's going to have Kairi Sane and Shayna Baszler. Now, you would think, okay, Kairi Sane is a lock to win because they're eventually going to call up Shayna. That's true. That is definitely a true fact. But if that happens, then you could do Shiri against Asuka against Satomura in a triple threat still. You could still do a triple threat, or you could do the one-on-one dream match between Asuka and Shuri. Just saying. You could do that. But my betting would be that Shayna is going to retain, or at least she'll have the belt by this time. She might regain it on a taping of NXT, on an NXT taping. I'm just saying. Either way, I think Shayna's going to have the belt by now, by this time. Either it's a second reign or it's still her current reign. So logic would say it makes sense. It makes sense booking wise and everything. Shayna Baszler. Then, now you might say, okay, that takes care of those two championships, and who could be the champions and who should be represented as the champions there? What about SmackDown and Raw? Well, Raw right now logically would say Ronda Rousey, but we don't know. See, WWE is high on Alexa Bliss, and SmackDown-wise, they're high on Carmella. But business-wise, promotional-wise, you want champions that fans could take legitimately. That fans would say, that's a champion I can believe in. That's a champion I want to see. That's the reason I want to come to this event. That's the champion that's bringing me to this event. So, strategy-wise, business-wise, Ronda Rousey would be a reasonable lock for the Raw Women's Championship, and Becky Lynch would be a lock for the SmackDown Women's Championship. But again, we don't know that right now. For all we know, WWE could say, let's keep the belts on Carmella and Alexa and wait till Evolution to crown new champions. I don't think so. I think come SummerSlam, we're going to have new champions. One's going to win in a squash, maybe a surprisingly decent match, but mostly a squash. And the other will be in a sort of competitive match, but mostly a squash as well. So I would expect Becky and Ronda to have the championships by Evolution. Now, with that said, would I expect any of these women to hold their championships? I would expect at least 2 championships to change hands. I would expect the NXT Championship, the NXT Women's Championship, and the SmackDown Women's Championship to change hands. Those are the 2 I would expect, because if you just crowned your UK Women's Champion, you don't want to take the belt off her just yet because it'll make her look like a fluke, make her look like a transitional champion right off the bat. And you don't want your championship to be looked at as a transitional championship. So the UK women's title stays with, I believe, Toni Storm. The Raw title is going to stay with Ronda Rousey if she's champion by this time. So the 2 championships that I think are going to change hands will be SmackDown's and NXT's. And who are they going to be changing hands to? I expect we're going to get Charlotte and Becky at Evolution. So I would expect Charlotte to walk out with the championship. And I would expect, if not Kairi Sane, I would expect, well, possibly Kairi Sane. I would expect either Kairi Sane or Dakota Kai to walk out with the NXT Championship at Evolution. That's what I believe is probably going to happen. And to me, these are the best business decisions you can make, promotional-wise and strategically, easy for me to say, strategically, these are the best moves you can make to help this event sell out. Because, let's be honest, people may love Alexa, and there are some people that may love Carmella, but they don't look at them as being some of the best in-ring performers. And if you're going to have people be decent in-ring performers, and especially those that get it right off the bat, you want those that have name recognition and those that know how to compete in that ring in decent classic-like matchups. So overall, that's what I think they should do. So honestly, that's who I think should be the champion. That'll be so honestly, what I'm trying to say is I think those who will be the champions going in, and like I said, 2 of those championships will change hands at Evolution. I really, really think so. So this is the way I look at it. I look at the fact that you'll have your championship matchups, you'll have your Mae Young Classic final, so that's 5, and then you will have a battle royal, that's 6. You're gonna have Trish and Mickey, that's 7, and then I think honestly, story logically, you should have Alundra Blaze against Stephanie McMahon because Alundra Blaze could be basically that legend, that Hall of Famer that basically is sick and tired of the McMahons always taking credit for stuff that they didn't do. And in this case, being Stephanie, they didn't really have a hand in. In this case, being Stephanie McMahon, and there you go. And like I said, you could work off the whole Alundra being blackballed and stuff like that because of what she did. So I think logically, that's the bit. So I think logically, from an 8-match standpoint, with that could take place with under or around 3 hours, this is the best lineup. This is the best direction and the best promotional booking wise that they could do for this show to get people to sell out or at least get a decent sized crowd inside the Nassau Coliseum for this event. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on that. Now, one of the last things I want to talk about, oh boy, is something that not a lot of fans are thrilled about. Not a lot of fans are thrilled about this, and honestly, you can't really blame them. I'll talk about it in a moment. I'm going to check something. Sorry about that. I was just checking my dog there. But anyway, like I said, like I was saying, this is a main event that nobody is happy about. I don't think you can blame them. But going back to this past Monday, you may have saw, if you watch Raw, you may have saw that Roman Reigns beat Bobby Lashley in a rematch from Extreme Rules. Now, you might say the same thing a lot of people said. What was the point of Bobby Lashley beating Roman Reigns at Extreme Rules if basically it's not going to lead to anything? My sentiments exactly. What sense did it make? But yeah, not a lot of people are happy about this. Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar one more time at SummerSlam. Hopefully, between now and SummerSlam, WWE realizes they need to fix this. The best solution, in my opinion, is to have Bobby Lashley be added to the match. Because you can have Bobby Lashley, in my opinion, has an argument. would have a decent argument. It's like, yeah, Roman, you beat me, but I beat you before. But I beat you first. So what, so maybe I should be added. And if that means we got to get Lashley and Reigns one more time, then it means we're going to get it one more time just to have Lashley added in. But it makes sense if they do that because Lashley would have a valid argument. He would. Now, Lashley may still get a championship match, and he might become champion at SummerSlam, but it might be the Intercontinental title. In other words, there's rumors going around that the match between Seth and Dolph could be changed, but what would it be changed to? Would it be a fatal 4-way, 5-way, a triple threat? I think this is going to be the match that includes Lashley. I really do. This is going to be the match that includes Lashley, and he will probably become champion with the Intercontinental title. Maybe. But again, WWE's got to find a way to fix this. And I don't know. Look, I get Vince wants to get, I get that people like Vince McMahon, Kevin Dunn, and some other people want to get the belt on Roman as badly as they can. But they are picking the wrong places, the wrong venues, the wrong audiences to do this in front of. I mean, you have people coming here on YouTube protesting this matchup. You have people going on Facebook and Twitter protesting this matchup. And you're all having them basically suggest to the crowd that's going to be there in person to basically, as soon as the match before the last match of the night, which is Reigns and Lesnar, takes place, before that last match, which would be Reigns and Lesnar, takes place, you have people on all of social media telling the audience that's going to be at SummerSlam to stand up and walk out of that damn arena in protest saying, you want us back in, you add somebody else to the match, or you get Roman away from that championship. That's what's going to happen. And and you know what? I hope WWE is hearing what's going on. I hope WWE knows that people on social media are protesting this match already, and they're suggesting to the entire freaking audience that's going to be there live at the Barclays Center to walk out on this matchup to the point that before this match even ends, the arena is going to look completely freaking empty. So hopefully they do something. Hopefully they do something. Because if they don't do something, if they don't have a cash-in before this match starts, then they're pretty much screwing them. They're shooting themselves right in the foot multiple times over. That's what they're doing. They're pretty much blowing the foots off, the toes off, and everything if they don't do something about this. Heck, you already have freaking Dalyxman, one of the most well-renowned YouTubers here on YouTube and on social media, one of the more well-renowned wrestling reviewers and analysts. Wrestling reviewers and analysts, I should say. Alex from Houston, Texas. You have him basically doing a video pretty much saying that this main event don't exist. That this is an imaginary, like Roman Reigns, Lesnar? I don't know. I never heard that was going to happen. That's in everybody's head. That don't exist. You got people doing that. You got people like him doing that now. Because they don't want this match. And WWE just doesn't see it. And again, this basically confirms my suspicions. And Lord, forgive me for doing this or saying this. Or Lord, forgive me for doing and saying this. Okay? Lord, forgive me for doing and saying this. But this confirms my suspicion that Vince McMahon thinks he's still back in the 1980s. I mean, You have a former writer saying that Vince McMahon, at the time he was working for the WWE, was, and if not still is, suffers from memory loss. The guy that runs the damn company suffering from memory loss. And this is the guy that has the final say in things. Suffering from memory loss. It's not a good sign. It's not a good sign. Because again, it confirms my suspicions that I think the memory loss causes Vince, in my opinion, to probably think he's back in the 1980s and thinks this is a match people want to see. Thinking, oh, yes, people want to see this because this is 2018. And he probably thinks Reigns is freaking Hogan and Lesnar is freaking Andre, thinking, yeah, fans are going to want this because it's Roman Reigns against Andre, Brock Lesnar. If that's the case, Vince McMahon needs help. He needs professional fucking help. Because this does not make sense. It does not make sense. And I don't watch wrestling that much anymore because of crap like this. I'm going to probably tune in to freaking Impact now and SmackDown Live because that's probably the best wrestling we're going to get, along with NXT. Like, I tuned in. This thing. My version of Xfinity, my regional version of Xfinity Comcast, they don't have Access TV. So I had to go to Los Ingobernables, Kansas City on Facebook. Los Ingobernables, Kansas City on Facebook to watch G1 in San Francisco. And you know what? I loved it. I ordered this past Sunday Slammiversary, and I loved it. Because that's the wrestling I want to see. I loved it. I loved it. I get more fun out of watching the 4-minute highlights of Impact than I do with Raw. I get more fun with the SmackDown ones than I do Raw. I mean, Raw's going to have its moments here and there, yes, and I'll probably have a moment here and there when Ronda and Brock show up this Monday. But Ronda's is going to get more views and get more of a positive reaction to freaking Brock's. And everybody is saying it's the real main event is a matchup between AJ Styles and Samoa Joe. Everybody is looking forward more to a WWE Championship match headlined by two Impact Wrestling TNA originals. Yeah. Two Impact Wrestling alumni, TNA originals, facing each other for the WWE Championship in basically in a moment of time that we never thought would happen. In a moment of time where you know as soon as they stand across the ring from each other, that freaking crowd in the Barclays Center is going to go TNA, 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 Impact Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, Impact Wrestling. You know they're going to do that. And yet, instead of closing out with a moment like that, a moment in time like that, you're going to close out with people going, boo, and, oh, look at the time. We got to go beat the traffic. That's it. You're going to have people getting out of the freaking seats, going up the stairs, security saying, why are you leaving? The show's not over. Oh, I got to beat the traffic. And people in the car going like, shoo, at least I don't have to see that match. Knowing possibly what the result will be. All because WWE does not want to listen. Vince McMahon, if you're watching, Stephanie McMahon, if you're watching, Triple H, if you're watching, if anybody's watching that's close to WWE, let Vince McMahon or let anybody, let Kevin Dunn, somebody know this is not freaking 1988. This is not 1988. This is Roman Reigns. It's not Hulk Hogan. Brock Lesnar is not Andre the Giant. He's not freaking Zeus. This is 2018. Times have changed. Fans would rather see Finn freaking Balor against Brock Lesnar. Fans would rather see freaking upcoming former indie star to turn WWE star Matt freaking Riddle against Brock Lesnar. They don't want to see Roman Reigns against Brock Lesnar. And your plan to have either Strowman or Owens cash in during or after the match, it's gonna backfire on you. The only way this match will get people to stay is if you have, before that freaking bell rings, Owens' music hit or Strowman's music hit, you have them come out, say, I'm cashing in right now, we're making this triple threat, and you have freaking Strowman or Owens go over. That's the only way it's going to work. But yet, it's knowing WWE, they're going to wait. They're going to wait until this crowd, until that arena is completely freaking empty before they do that. And you know, I don't blame Dalyxman. I don't blame Alex for doing the video he did yesterday by saying, hey, what match? What match between Lesnar and Reigns? I don't know any match. This match don't exist. I don't think about it. I don't blame Alex for thinking that way. I don't blame just the Slag Daddy for thinking that way. I don't blame Chase Oliver. I don't blame Bill Apter. I don't blame Dave Meltzer. I don't blame Brian Alvarez. I don't blame Don Tony. I don't blame Kevin Castle. I don't blame anybody that's spoken out against this. I don't blame Jim Cornette. I don't blame Eric Bischoff. I don't blame any of them. Because you know what? Everybody that's spoken out about this and said that Roman Reigns does not connect with the group, with the fan base, has a point. Vince, Roman Reigns is not the next Hulk, is not Hulk Hogan. He's not John Cena, and he's not freaking The Rock. Get it through your skull. The only way you can make Roman Reigns work as a champion is if you capitalize on what you had him say this past Monday. And you use that, and you turn him freaking heel, and you have him basically gloat at the fact that, yeah, I'm the champ. Yeah, I'm the champ. You have him gloat about it. You have him shove it in people's face. And you have him, if you have to, as a heel, break kayfabe and said, yeah, I was the chosen one. Yeah, they chose me. What are you going to do about it? Come on, fight me. That's the only way Roman Reigns is going to work as champion, is if he's a heel and someone does a work shoot and saying, yeah, I was chosen by Vince McMahon to be the Universal Champ. You got a problem with that? To be the face of the company. You got a problem with that? That's the only way it's going to work. It's the only way it's going to freaking work. I mean, you even have people doing little memes, putting a freaking wig, a woman's wig, on Roman Reigns. And saying that, you know, doing a mock-up job, but like I said, putting a freaking woman's wig on Roman Reigns, saying he's the newest women's wrestler and he's going to be at Revolution. Vince, look, I get Vince McMahon wants to make Roman Reigns champion. He wants to get this out of his system. He wants to make this happen one way or another. But Vince, you had 2 times, 3 times, as a matter of fact, to make this happen. WrestleMania 31. You had a chance to make it happen. What happened? The crowd turned on you. So what'd you have to do? Last minute, before the match happened, you had to set into motion Seth Rollins cashing in and walking out with the title. And guess what? People loved it. And guess what? People tuned into Raw because Seth was champion. They'd rather seen him as a heel champion than Roman Reigns. Then what happened? Seth gets injured. Seth gets injured. He gets injured. He gets injured. Seth gets injured. And you do a tournament. Roman Reigns, which basically a lot of people dubbed the Roman Reigns tournament because they knew who was going to win. And that's exactly what happened. Roman Reigns becomes champion of Survivor Series. But what do you do instead? What do you do? What do you do, Vince? What do you do? You have Sheamus cash in. You have Sheamus cash in and beat him. Because fans would rather see Sheamus as champion than Roman Reigns. But then, of course, you have Roman Reigns winning back on the last Raw of the year. You don't have him win it back at TLC, but you have him win on the last Raw of the year. And still, that crowd didn't like it. But you pretty much will look at it and say, well, that crowd was more partisan than what we had at Survivor Series and TLC. Yeah, maybe. Maybe because most people that would attend those kind of events, the smart marks who are probably on vacation. But then what do? You have Roman Reigns lose the championship at the Royal Rumble to your son-in-law. And people were happy about that. They loved it. And they loved Triple H more as a champion going into WrestleMania. And yet, what do you do? Huh? What do you do? Roman Reigns has had the championship twice already. What happens? You make Roman Reigns a 3-time champion in the most hated main event you can think of. In front of the biggest freaking crowd of smart marks I've ever seen in my life. And then you have him hold on to the belt to Money in the Bank. And the only reason people accepted him as champion for a bit was because of the people you were putting him in the ring with. Those people had to bring out the best in Roman Reigns. They had to bring out a side of Roman Reigns that you have been hiding for a while and you still continue to hide. You put him in there against AJ Styles twice. And yeah, he won. But guess what? AJ had to carry him through that match, and AJ had to bring out a side of him that everybody knew he had. But yet, you, Vince McMahon, you, WWE, you, Kevin Dunn, you tell him to hide. You tell him to keep out of sight. And then finally, you decide that even despite the fact that AJ Styles brought out 2 of the best matches one-on-one that you could ever think of Roman having, you decide the experiment's failing. People are turning on him. And you have him drop it to Seth Rollins, who gets a bigger pop. And then you have Seth Rollins get cashed in by Dean Ambrose. And then Dean and the WWE Championship go to SmackDown. And then, when you decide to introduce the Universal Championship, you do a little mini tournament. And you realize that the fans are not going to like Roman Reigns being in SummerSlam's main event against Seth Rollins. So you go with the right call. I will give you that, by having Finn Balor win and then him becoming champion. But then he gets injured. He gets injured, And then you give it to Kevin Owens. And you have Kevin Owens beat Roman Reigns because you know fans don't want to see Roman Reigns as the champ. They didn't want to see that. And then if you then you have Roman Reigns do the unthinkable. It's one thing to have Brock Lesnar break the streak at the 30th anniversary of WrestleMania. But then you have the most despised wrestler superstar on your roster today in the featured match, the headline closing match of your Showcase of Immortals, beat the Phenom himself. And the impact that's supposed to have didn't last because pretty much fans crapped all over the match and they crapped all over the result to the point that The Undertaker had to come back and beat John Cena to get his win back from Roman Reigns. And what you were hoping to be his send-off, now you got to hold off on for another year. All because you just don't learn. You don't. You just don't learn. You just don't learn, WWE. You don't. You don't learn. I mean, you even have Roman Reigns closing out Backlash this year. Even him closing out Backlash. And he's closing out Backlash against Samoa Joe of all people. You have fans walking out because they don't care about Roman Reigns. They care about Joe, and they probably feel sorry for the fact that they're walking out on a Samoa Joe match, but they already know the result. They already know who's going over. And you knew this at WrestleMania. At the event where pretty much everybody thought, oh, Roman Reigns is going to go over, what do? To try to make yourself look, unpredictable, you decided to have Brock go over. And then you decided to have Brock go over in the Greatest Royal Rumble in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, where you thought you would have a partisan crowd, but you didn't. Did you? You didn't have a partisan crowd, did you, Vince? And just like WrestleMania, you had to hold off on pulling the trigger. Because you just don't get it. What are you going to do now, Vince? What, you're going to have Braun Strowman cash in just as the match starts, turn it into a triple threat, and have Braun go over? Okay, fine. At least Roman doesn't walk out with the belt. You have a crowd going home happy. And Brock Lesnar is no longer seen in WWE ever again. Or do you have a nearly empty crowd bear witness to a Kevin Owens cash-in? A cash-in that could be similar, if not identical, to Seth Rollins cashing in during mid-match. Or do you show that you don't have the guts to do it anymore? Or do you show maybe that realization, reality has finally hit you upside the head, courtesy of your son-in-law? Perhaps you don't And perhaps you just pull the same crap you did at WrestleMania and you have Brock beat Roman. And then what do? You have Brock come out the next night on Raw and have him vacate the championship, retire as champion, stating nobody, not even the great Roman Reigns, could beat him. And then that's how you get Roman's the championship belt? By having him win a vacated title? Vince? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what you're thinking sometimes. I mean, look, Roman Reigns is probably a great in-ring performer when he gets the chance to do so. People have said that he has more in his arsenal than what he is presenting. And true, at times we can get a glimpse of that. But it's thanks to people like Vince McMahon, Kevin Dunn, and those in WWE and on Raw that we don't get that glimpse. We don't get that side of Roman. Because I guarantee you, if we got that side of Roman where he could pretty much utilize his entire freaking arsenal to the point that maybe fans would be like, whoa, man, there is more than Roman Reigns than we thought. Man, this guy could really compete in the ring. This guy can really go. He can really wrestle. I'm not guaranteeing, but I bet you anything fans would be more willing to watch a Roman Reigns match if he was willing to be able to pull out every single arsenal he has in his repertoire. But he can't. Because WWE is so dead set on him being the next John Cena, the next Rock, the next Hulk Hogan. And there's one thing you got to realize. Roman Reigns will never be Hulk Hogan. He will never be the next Rock, and he damn sure won't be the next John Cena. Because I'm going to tell you this right now. If you want fans to respect and love Roman Reigns, stop shoving him down people's throats. Stop giving him opportunities. And stop trying to make him the face of the company when you know fans don't want him. You want fans to look at him as the face of the company? You want fans to respect him, to appreciate him, to accept him as the champ? Have him organically do it. Because I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of fans are going to do exactly what Dalyxman and anybody else is going to tell them to do on social media. They're going to walk, those at Barclays are going to walk out that arena and make that, and they're going to turn the Barclays Center from a sold-out center to an empty center, from a sold-out arena to an empty arena as soon as that match starts, because they don't want to see this anymore. They don't, Vince. They don't. So maybe it's time for you to step away. Let Triple H and Stephanie McMahon, let somebody that knows what they're doing take the reins and show you what fans really want. Because honestly, fans would probably appreciate Roman Reigns becoming the champion or being the one to take the belt away from Brock Lesnar if he did it, if it was done organically. But it's not. And Vince, when Summerslam goes off the air and you don't have a cash-in happen and you just have Roman beat Brock straight up and end the show like that, it'll be on your head, it'll be on your shoulders that the last thing people see is not Roman Reigns celebrating, but in the background, nothing more than a freaking nearly empty Barclays Center. It'll be on you that this happens. So I hope Vince McMahon, I hope WWE, Triple H, Kevin Dunn, Stephanie McMahon, Ryan Ward, anybody that will listen to us fans here on social media, who will listen to our voice, hear our voices, will make the right call and say, look, we either put Bobby Lashley in this match, make it a triple threat, have Lashley go over, and have maybe, if we want to, Owens, if he's going to win over Strowman, cash in and beat Lashley in fresh new Universal Championship championship feud right there. Or we have Strowman cash in as soon as the match starts, turn it into a triple threat, and have Strowman go over. I hope somebody hears our voices before SummerSlam, because you know what? I do not feel sorry for Monday Night Raw. I do not feel sorry for Vince McMahon, Ken Dunn, Brian James, Road Dogg, because this is going to be on your guys' heads. Think about what you're doing. Think about it. And for those that work WWE social media place, let our voices be heard. Let them be heard. Let Vince McMahon hear what we have to say. Let him read what we have to say. Because you know what? You want SummerSlam to be a success. You don't want that arena to be an empty arena before that main event's over. Do the right thing. You either put AJ and Samoa Joe last as the real main event, as the closeout match, and put Roman and Brock second to last or third to last, or in the freaking middle of the card. Do something right. Correct this mistake. Do something. That's all I have to say, folks. That's really all I have to say. Let me know what you guys all think down below. Let me check, see if anybody tuned into the live stream. And I do apologize again for any stream interruptions and stuff like that. But I'll tell you, folks, they got to do something come WrestleMania, because, I mean, not WrestleMania, but SummerSlam, because I do not envy them. Oh, I had a good one. I had a good birthday, Wild. Thank you for the compliment. But yeah, I do not envy WWE, because they are going to have a whole freaking mess on their hands if they don't do the right thing. They are. They are going to have a mess on their hands that they are going to take months to clean up from. It's going to take them months to clean up from. But really, that's all I'm going to say, folks. Let me know what you all think down below. Comment if you like. Take your time in watching this. Hopefully you do. Tune in tomorrow for Dalyxman's booking of how he would book WWE's Women's Pay-Per-View Evolution, as well as answering your Q&As. Tune into that. Support Dalyxman during his times of personal needs. You know, keep him in your prayers, as we all will. But guys, just let me know. But overall, guys, let me know what you think down below. Comment if you like. Hopefully you take your time in listening to this and watching this. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I will talk to you all later. God bless. Take care.